Brooke, a massive welcome to the Lead on Purpose podcast.
Kia ora. Thanks so much for having me today.
Oh, it's so great to connect. It's interesting. Just before we hit record, I was telling you about my own experience with your amazing brand, Sharesies, and it was on a bus with a team many years ago. And someone says, "Hey, you've got to check this thing out." So I just couldn't get my head around it. Then all of a sudden, I seen it everywhere, and I was like, "Wow! Like everybody needs to be on board." And now you've got hundreds of thousands of people that invest with Sharesies. So I'm super excited to get this opportunity to actually talk about where it all started, why it all started, and where we're going.
Yeah, I'm so glad you had that bus trip, and yeah, it's been an amazing journey over the last 5, 6 years, and heaps more to come.
That's so exciting. Well, let's talk about the start. Like, where did it all begin?
So Sharesies started in 2016, and at that time there were rising house prices and lowering interest rates, and this real sense that you couldn't get ahead with money, and that it was really hard to develop wealth, and it felt like a lot of the structures out there just were putting massive barriers in the way of people being able to really develop wealth. And my husband and I were looking at starting a business. We have social entrepreneurship kind of backgrounds, or we'd run young enterprise companies, and we were always toying with business ideas on the side. And we have background in finance and banking and marketing and all that sort of jazz. And then Layden got connected with Sonia, who he was working with at the time, who had the initial idea behind Sharesies, who was like, "Hey, I wish I could invest $50 in a and just grow over time and really create a lovable experience when it comes to investing and make it way more accessible." And Layden was like, "Well, actually, when I was 17 years old, I started an investment club with 13 of my friends, putting $50 away each week, which was a lot of money for a 17-year-old and a lot of money during those uni days. But they really committed to it, to each of them. And they still do that to this day. And it went from their first investment being a cow to a herd of cows, because I'm based in Hawara, to commercial property and all of these random things, just from starting with $50 each a week. And we're just like, well, it'd be great if more people could have access to that. You didn't have to be Layden's mate to be able to know about those kind of opportunities. How could we really democratize investing? And we spent 6 months doing pure customer research, listening to people. There were 6 of us that really rallied around Sharesies at this time, 6 founders. We listened and heard so many stories about what money meant to people and how taboo it felt to talk about money, and the fear people had of, "Oh, I don't do it right." All the self-negative talk when it came to money, to whether they were an investor or not, and what KiwiSaver meant to them. If they had KiwiSaver or superannuation, what did that mean? And did they feel like an investor through that? And from all of this insight, we learned that people really felt priced out. Like, to be an investor, you'd have to have heaps of money. They felt jargoned out, like you needed to have a degree in finance or be watching the markets all the time to be an investor. And then ultimately left out that investing was really just for the wealthy few, that the majority of investors were over 60, lived in Auckland, or in the capital cities, and were more likely to be male too. So a lot of that information and that access to the knowledge when it came to investing and the structures in place were really big barriers. So we set out to demolish all of them just under 6 years ago now. And we really have. We have no minimum investment, which means like we've tackled that pricing barrier. There's no minimum investment for the over 8,000 investment options on our platform. The jargon, we do so much to remove that jargon, and it's kind of needed. We make sure that we've really defined it and made it as simple and easy in terms of everyday language being used, because it doesn't need to have these kind of whiz-bang terms out there when we can just use everyday language to explain finance and investing. And we've got education from blogs and podcasts and webinars to community events, whatever we can to really help people build that confidence and motivation when it comes to investing. And on the left out barrier, where there's so much work to be done there, we do have great gender representation from the investors on our platform, but there's so much to do to make sure more and more communities have access to this knowledge and to access to the ability to develop wealth, and that's a bit of our focus too.
It's incredible. It's just seriously amazing. And I do remember as a late teenager thinking about investment and going, I don't know where to start. And if I go and chat to someone, they're like, "Hey, come back when you've got $250,000." And at like 19, 20, I didn't have $250,000 to chat like that. I was never going to have that in my mind. So to have something like Sharesies, it gives everyone an opportunity to actually get started and start the compounding.
Exactly. And that's with investing. When I was studying finance, which I picked up very late at university, it was in my third year, I was in this marketing lecture and they said, put your hand up if you like numbers. And out of 300 people in the room, only 3 of us put our hand up. And I was like, okay, I've got to do something with this. So I picked up finance and I'm really glad I did. And in one of my first finance lectures, I learned about the time value of money, which is essentially the most valuable aspect of money is time. And that is a key part of why we develop Sharesies too, is to help people make most of their time and being able to invest amounts they can afford and build wealth over time. And the reason why time is so valuable in that when it comes to investing is because of compounding returns, where if you're investing and then your money makes money, and money grows money essentially. And that is something I wish we learned way earlier in life at school, and I wish that it was something in society that was really well known, so we could really make the most of that knowledge.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And in terms of that time, so let's say someone's 25, maybe even 30 years old, and they're like, oh my goodness, I've missed the boat. Like, people started when they were in their teens, I've missed the boat. What could a 30-year-old do right now, today, to get the ball rolling?
So first off, it goes back to what I was saying earlier around that shame we have with money. We never feel like we've done the right thing. And we need to remove that. So no matter your age, investing is for you. There is options that are great, no matter your age and stage in life. And I think that's an important thing to be aware of, because these platforms like ours only started recently. So it hasn't been something that has been very accessible to us. So we've been really locked out of these opportunities. So take that away. Mm-hmm. and then thinking about using that time. I mean, if you're 30, there's still a long time ahead of you. Even if you're 65, there's still reasons to and goals you might have in life and things you might want to be able to do that will require money to create those opportunities, and thinking about, well, how can I be building wealth either for myself or the community or my whānau or family? What could I be doing to reach these goals in life, and how can investing play a part in that?
Yeah, I really love that, because I think there are times in our lives where we think we have left things too late, and different things, whether it's education, whether it's having children, and actually we kind of create these beliefs. So I love that Sharesies is helping to reshape the BS, the belief systems that people have around money and investing. So what are you guys most proud of over the last, you say 6 years?
Yeah, 5.5, really.
Amazing. What are you most proud of? What are some of the things that have come up that you're really proud that you guys have been able to create?
One obvious one is the fact that Sharesies has grown so well, and what that means is that we have created something that really resonates with people and is really helping them drive great habits and behaviors when it comes to money, and ultimately develop more wealth over time. So that's something that's core to our purpose around creating financial empowerment for everyone and giving someone with $5 and 5 million the same money opportunities. We've really relentlessly stuck to achieving that, and there's so much more to do in there, but I'm really proud of our ability to break down a lot of those barriers we talked about that were there before we started. I'm really proud of our team. We've got around 200 people that help create Sharesies every day, and I love the energy they have and the passion they've got for making financial knowledge more accessible and creating financial empowerment for everyone. I buzz coming in and connecting with the team. And I think the structural change we've started to see in terms of how people are talking about money and removing those barriers. I love it when I hear about families sitting around the table talking about how their Sharesies portfolio is going and what's been happening in the news, and this information just entering households, we're entering friendships, and really helping more and more people get this knowledge that has been very opaque and stuck behind a few very wealthy doors. So it is really exciting. And then there's so much more. One thing I am really proud of too is all of the founders are still going in the business, and we heard so much when we started with 6 founders. We got so much crap about that, like, oh, that's not going to work. founders are two guys in a garage kind of thing. And we've really changed that mold. And because we've had such a strong founding team, we've been able to share the load and go home with light shoulders and have that care for each other and the wider team. And I think that set us up really well. And being a B Corp, you know, making sure that our decision making is empowering, you know, the world in ways that we can, and as much as we're possible, having a positive impact on the environment, our customers, the community, you know, our team, and having good governance in place is all part of that. So heaps to be proud of, and heaps of great challenges and things to head to.
I love that. And it's interesting because the B Corp side of things, that's very few companies can say that they've got that. It's quite an incredible achievement. So what was the process you guys went through to achieve the B Corp?
We knew we wanted to create a company that was solely driven around its social purpose, and that for us is creating financial empowerment for everyone. And with that, we wanted to make sure also we were creating a company. We knew we're creating a company, not just a product. So we knew that the product that our customers see and that we interact with every day is only one aspect. There's, you know, all the people and the governance and the suppliers and all this jazz that, you know, gets a business and the operations like humming. And having that real holistic view of what we were creating was really important. And looking at that, we really wanted to create something that was, in all the decision making, was leading us towards our purpose, and making sure that we had a business that was for purpose and for profit. So being a B Corp was really natural to us. We tried to apply as soon as we can, and then found out you needed to have a year's worth of revenue. So we put our assessment application on the side until we got to our year's worth of revenue, and then we applied. And it was a really rigorous process to become a B Corp. You fill out this B impact assessment, and then you go through audits, and you need to provide documentation. And it's a very lengthy process, can take between 6 months to a year. I believe now. And it was just really great to see that rigor and really test how we'd set up this company, and also find ways that we could improve it over time. And that's what I love about being part of the B Corp community, is like rising tide floats all boats. And as more and more people join the B Corp community, and as more of us look at our businesses and look at our practices and see how we could improve them, the standard rises. And I'm really excited to be part of that community and for the future. And it's great to see the growth and how many more B Corps have come. We're the first financial services company to become one, and it's great to see a few more have joined now, and it's more than doubled since the community's more than doubled in Aotearoa and probably Australia too since we started.
That's fantastic. And to think about it, you went in just under 6 years from 6 founders to 200 team members. Like, that's huge.
Yeah, we've experienced significant growth, and, you know, from 0 investors back then to over 600,000 and over 2 billion invested through our platform. It takes a lot to be able to scale like that. And we scaled really fast, especially when we're all in lockdown and dealing with those challenges of trying to scale from home and not having those natural interactions that we were so used to. So it's been a real challenge, but something that we've always been really deliberate about is about creating a sustainable fintech business, and making sure that we're trying to scale our practices and scale our processes ahead of time, and really thinking about the growth curve that Sharesies was going to go on, so we could continue to support our investors and our team as much as possible.
Incredible. And the psychology of a human investing. So I'm thinking like pandemic here. I'm thinking of external things like there's a depression coming, there's a recession here, all this media stuff, all this external stuff that happens. Are you able to see from your end the data of how that impacts people's psychology around investing?
Definitely. And that was why that jargon, or the education side of what we were creating, was really important. Removing that jargon and really educating about what great investing habits are, and building those practices into our product. And so I've been really proud of the way that investors have dealt with the market corrections and market changes, and you know, seeing their portfolio maybe dip into negative and then come back up again. There's a lot of behavioral economics that comes into place, and that's a big term for going, there's loss aversion. So once you might be up in profit and then and then it might tank a bit, you can feel a loss from that, even though it was never realized. And so they're teaching people about how the markets go up and down and making sure they're really understanding of that. We haven't seen people knee-jerk react too much when the markets change, which is fantastic to see. To building our products so that people can dollar cost average, which means just putting money every payday into investments that align with what you really want to be investing in and where you want your money to be going in the world, and how you want to seek those returns. And we've just seen incredible behavior and habits being formed, which is a really important part of investing. And so that's something that I think investors should be really proud of.
Yes, it's really interesting because think of, say, indexing. So for me, I don't know whether I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing, but if I was to check in once a year on my index investment, that would be like going good. Often it's every couple of years. I'm like, oh, how's that thing going? So during COVID, I just really didn't care because I knew it was going to go down. And I'm like, I'm in my 30s. I don't need to touch that bad boy for another 30 odd years. So I'm just going to like not worry. So from your experience, should we be engaging more often and keeping an eye on things and moving things around, or with an index approach, is it like if you're a specific age, set and forget?
Yeah, and this is where it really depends on your investment strategy. So it does really depend on what matters, but there's research out there that if you're investing in indices, which in an index fund is essentially you're investing in a bunch of companies rather than just one. So say there's the Australian Stock Exchange 200, which is the top 200 companies in Australia, or the NZX 50, which is the top 50 companies in New Zealand. You can invest in those indices, and you're getting kind of exposure to all of those companies in those indices. And that way you've kind of got that diversification of not just all being in one company. You might not have the diversification of different countries, but there's heaps of different options out there, so you can, and with no minimum, you can kind of invest how you want. But I think it's important to really understand that what is right for you in that time. And when you're investing in indices, like I was saying, that research shows that they typically can outperform those real active investors, and that buy and hold approach of going, hey, I'm going to invest in this, I'm going to invest in it regularly and hold, has been a bit more of a proven strategy than the buy, sell, buy kind of investment strategy.
And I love that there are those options there, and I love that it's literally at our fingertips. It's instant. It's just incredible. So I guess one of the things, there might be a listener listening right now going, okay, if I'm doing that and it's easily accessible for me, how safe is it? So what are the safeguards and the firewalls and all that kind of stuff to protect people's data and people's investments that you guys put in place?
Yeah, so we are highly regulated in this industry we're in. So we're regulated by the Financial Markets Authority in Aotearoa and ASIC in Australia. So, and a bunch of others, we're highly regulated. And I think regulation is such an important part of a healthy finance industry too. So that's one key part. And then in terms of people's investments, we are essentially a broker. So we go and place that investment, and we're helping create that trade, or make sure that you can get that investment that you want and get that into your portfolio, and that the money exchanges hands as well as possible. We also have a custodial system, which means that any money that you have invested in the Sharesies platform is completely ring-fenced and separate to the Sharesies platform in itself. So your money is held in bare trust for you, and all your funds or money in your platform is there under your name in this custody. And that's quite a typical setup in the United States. And it's a really great way that we can make sure that we can remove any of those barriers when it comes to investing too.
That's great. Yes, absolutely. Gives people peace of mind when they're investing.
Yeah.
I love that. And in terms of leadership, so you've went from 6 to 200. So when you think of leadership, what's your definition of leadership?
It's evolved so much over time. I remember in my early 20s, I did this leadership development program. And at the end of it, we had to come up with a sentence on our leadership style. And I said, I have having fun delivering results was my one, which is I think working should be fun. I think it should, if you're really passionate and purposeful and you really care about what you're doing, like there's this energy and this fun that comes from that, and collaborating with others and bouncing ideas off each other and testing and seeing how things go and ultimately getting those results that drive the outcome towards a purpose is crucial. So I still resonate a lot with that as a bit of my leadership style, but I think it has evolved a bit over time. In particular, now with the company we've got, I find that so much of my leadership is about being there for people, asking the right questions, removing barriers where possible, and really making sure that all decisions are thinking about, for purpose and for profit, and getting that humming. So I have gone on a massive leadership journey, and I still will in the future. But I think a lot of it is about making sure that the team are feeling really connected and empowered to achieve the purpose at the end of the day. And our role as leaders is to make sure that we're supporting that. And I'm a big fan of servant leadership. I'm a big fan of like thoughtful leadership. And ultimately, I find the best way is to get out of people's way. And when there's things in their way, help them get it out.
That's great.
So I didn't have a really articulate, here's a sentence, but maybe one day I will.
No, the way you explain it is like it's real. It's from the actual in-motion experience as a leader. It's fantastic. So in terms of when I think of leadership and I think of a company, you've got the leader or the leaders, and their collective leadership capability is a lid. And what happens is the company's growth and the people that you attract and the people that you retain, your talent, it never kind of reaches anywhere above the leadership capability. So to attract better talent or to keep the talent and to grow the company, it's all about, hey, how do we grow our leadership in terms of our mindset and where we're headed? So what do you and the leadership team do actively to grow your own leadership capabilities?
Yeah, this is crucial. We even knew, as founders, we hadn't been CEOs before or, been part of those leadership teams really, aside from in our own companies. So that was something we knew we needed to scale ourselves ahead of Sharesies, and we've been really active on that and very deliberate. So from things such as leadership training, and every month or so all of our exec team get together and we train on something, so it's some sort of leadership focus we'll really go and dive in on, and also strategically step back, look, going, hey, are we supporting our people in the right way? Are we focused on the right things? Are we humming as well as we can be? And making sure we take those times to be really deliberate is really crucial. For myself, I have a coach, and some of the other leaders do too, and that's a great way of just making sure we're taking that time to reflect, be really aware, make sure we're really conscious about our choices, and leveling ourselves up too. And as you get tested as a leader in different times, and making sure that we are coming from a place of araha for ourselves and for the people around us is really crucial. And then just having great support around has been something I have found has really helped with my personal growth, such as with my family. Even having, 2 children through creating Sharesies has been hectic, and just having my family support and growing from watching my children grow has been awesome, to other entrepreneurs out there getting together and supporting each other, because so often we think that we're faced with these unique situations. You go talk to somebody else, they're like, oh, same. And I was like, cool, let's figure it out together. Or they've already figured it out, and you can learn from them. You're like, oh, that's great. So that support network based on those connections that we've got from growing Sharesies or other leaders in the business community are really keen to give us their time and support us has been great. So and just in the wider community too, actually, there's just so much you can learn and be inspired from others that help you grow. And then there's books and podcasts and all that sort of jazz, and I even flow in terms of going through those. Sometimes I know actually all I need to do is listen to music, like I'm on the right track or whatever. I just need to listen to music right now because that really fills my energy cup. And then other times I'm like, oh, I'm really eager to learn about this specific topic, or hey, I'm just eager to learn something generally, and then diving into podcasts and letting my mind kind of really explore those topics. you're continuously learning, and having that growth mindset and that learning mindset, I think is, a really important part of leadership development.
Absolutely. And I'd love to just ask, what has been your greatest challenge of being a new mum and running a business?
Yeah, that has had its challenge. My kids are 4 and 2 now, and it was pretty challenging but incredibly rewarding too. A few months after starting Sharesies going full time and earning no income, I was hapu and pregnant with Al. So that was a whole journey to navigate. And then just before lockdown, I had my son, just before before COVID started to really take over, and then managing being on maternity leave, but knowing that Sharesies really needs some more support, and making sure I was really there for my family. And that was always a bit of fun. But for our team, it's a really stressful time when, you're really worried about your health and your community's health. So there's been heaps of challenge in terms of my personal growth there too. Like, I think after having children, my anxiety's increased a lot. I was worried about them. I was worried about this. There's massive to-do lists that I hadn't had to figure out before, did I pick this in the nappy bag? And did I bring my pumper to work? Like, there was just this whole list that was so, and it was, quite anxiety increasing when you've got these dependencies on you. But I feel like I'm in a better rhythm now. I think that's also a symptom of the age, like being able to sleep a bit better now, and being able to communicate with my children maybe makes things a little bit, or maybe just that muscle memory I've got now of having a few years into it. But I know that I'll go through massive challenges in the future. That's just part of life now. But it's a real rewarding challenge that I've been able to have there.
You're such a great example. I feel the pain sometimes as a parent. My boy's 6 now, and he's amazing and greatest gift. Those first kind of 9 to 18 months were challenging with sleep and with learning how to be a parent and learning what was scary and what was not. Should we be worried about this? No, let's not. That's such a juggle, plus running a business. I totally get it. And I admire that you're like, you know what? We did it anyway. And we moved forward, and we didn't quit on the business, and we didn't quit on life. That's incredible. So when you are going deep to get that tenacity, that drive, and that relentless determination, where does that tenacity come from? Because when I talk to you and the more I learn about you, I think you're very tenacious.
I've always had excess energy. I think I'm best when I'm moving, I feel. And as a kid, that I didn't know how to channel my excess energy. I'd be on daily report, which meant, I was going home with being graded each day on my behavior. And it's only because I think I just found it very hard to sit still and concentrate. And I just really wanted to go and explore. And I think nowadays the education is so much better in that regard. You can learn maths while doing PE. Cool. They've been great for me. And so, but later on, in high school, when I found being able to hone that energy into passions like fashion, sewing, and accounting and economics and business studies and starting businesses, that really started to show actually I just needed to find some passion to put this energy into. So I think that energy is probably driving a bit of that tenaciousness and curiosity I've got for the world around me, and wanting to just spend my time in a really meaningful way here on earth. Is kind of and making sure that I'm just doing the best I can at any time is kind of crucial. And then I think after actually around the New Year's resolutions, I started to think about the expectations I had, like on myself and on my husband and on the people around me, and was like, what if I just lowered these a bit? What would happen? What would happen if I lowered my expectations? Not the purpose or passion or anything like that, but what if I just lowered those a bit? And I have found I'm probably like a way more relaxed person, and also achieving more, I think, from just lowering a few of those expectations that I was building up on myself. And so I think that has been quite helpful for me this year.
That's fantastic. And did you find any pushback or inner tension when you were like thinking, I have to lower these expectations, or was it natural?
No, it's just evolved, and it's not in an intense way, but it's like, I would judge myself each day, like, oh, have I been there really present with my kids? Have I been epic at work? Have I exercised? Have I spent time with my friends? And I'd kind of look at this on a daily kind of basis. And I was like, I was always going to fail at that. But what if I looked at a month and I was like, hey, have I had a really great time with my friends in this last month? Have I really spent amazing time with my children, and have I invested in them in the way I wanted to? And have I invested my time in Sharesies the way I wanted to? And ultimately I'm like, yeah, that is how I wanted to spend my time, and starting to get a bit more into the exercise habits and things like that. So I think just like, even for a week or a month, just going, what if I just expanded that a little bit? And then come from a place more of araha and love, I guess, in that regard, than kind of fear or like feeling like I'm behind. And I had the same thing with emails, like, oh, God, emails are just like the bane of my life. But then I found fun ways to do that. I was like, what if in the morning, I love a cup of tea, I go to a cafe, have a cup of tea and smash those out, and then focus myself for the day. And I've been doing that, and it's just so much better, because the mornings are a bit of a rush panic in the household, but this has just created some a bit more space. And then I'm finding I don't have that perception of emails anymore. I'm like, okay, cool, done that, because I didn't even notice I did it, because I'm in this ambience that kind of works for me. So it's little things like that. And yeah,
that's such great advice. It really is. And I think that, what I hear from that is self-evaluation is the seed of self-mastery. And just like on a monthly basis, like, hey, how have I shown up as a mum? How have I shown up as a business owner? How have I shown up as a friend, rather than every day? And I think high performers, and the more that I talk to, high performers tend to be very hard on themselves, set very high self-expectations, and want to measure them every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And you rewind 20 years where health finished, high performance began. But nowadays it's like, no, that's not acceptable. So when I think of high performance, it's like performing above the standard norms over the long term. And that's where most people stop. I add in whilst maintaining positive relationships and well-being. And so if you do that first bit, performing above the standard norms, whilst maintaining the important things, then it's going to be sustainable, right? And it sounds like you've literally just said, hey, I do evaluate, but I don't like fantasize over it every day.
Yeah.
That's huge. So keep up that. I love it. And if there's people on your staff, spread that with them as well, and encourage them to take on some of those self-leadership traits that you've really embodied.
Yeah, and I know I've got a lot to learn too, but it's working for me at the moment, which I'm enjoying.
That's so cool. And this next year, so if we were to sit in 12 months' time, you said, James, this has been the most epic year, what would have happened in the last year for you to say that?
I'm more fluent in te reo. That's something I'm really deliberately focusing on the moment. And I'm in the learning pit of it at the moment, where I'm just realizing, when you start something and you're, I think I've got this. And then you realize, I don't know anything, there's so much more to learn. And so I'm really enjoying that. I'm really enjoying learning more about te ao Māori and supporting the movement to really support te reo. And I love that in my tamariki, my children, they are learning more and more and sharing, in kindergarten, and bringing that home and really helping keep really strong practice there. I think that's for me personally, and in the house, I hope that Sharesies is really thriving as it has been. We're in Australia and Aotearoa. I'd love to see, as we've been able to achieve mostly here in Aotearoa, that household brand and that real love and the support for what we're doing, and seeing people develop wealth. We're relatively new in Australia, and I'd love to see that just really blossom, and our team really blossom, and really create something that is supporting more and more Australians in terms of developing wealth over the long term. And having great time for my friends and family too. I feel now that there's great ways that they can all be intermingled. And we took our first break this year just last week, and I was like, okay, maybe next year I'll plan a few micro breaks in there a bit, because I think when you have a break, it's actually really good for work. It's really, that even that headspace and not even thinking about it just brings this perspective and this refreshed energy that you need sometimes. And so I think that's something I'd like to look back on and go, hey, have I made some little micro times with friends and family, more so throughout the year. So I'm always bringing that fresh perspective and those really clear insights.
I love it. Rest is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's so good. Yeah. I love it. Now, there's going to be a listener right now that's listening, and they're a leader and they've got some degree of privilege, and they possibly already have an investment strategy and they're on a journey. Now, equity and inclusion is a big part, I feel, of what Sharesies is about in terms of what I've experienced, what I've chatted to you about, what I've seen on a lot of your branding. So that person that's listening right now who does have some degree of privilege and influence, what could they do right now to help get Sharesies into the hands of people who might not know about it, might not know where to start? What's one simple thing somebody could do to just spread the word of Sharesies to somebody that otherwise would not have any clue about it?
I kind of want to answer that question in two ways. Like, as a leader, as a leader from a place of privilege, how can I create more opportunities for others in the way that we're working in the workplace? And then in terms of Sharesies and letting people know, I feel like I might answer that separately if that's okay.
Yeah.
So in the workplace, when you're a leader and you do have certain privileges that others haven't, being really aware of the difference between equity and equality. So I've seen leaders go, oh, but I had to still work hard to get here. And it's like, but not from an equity perspective. So thinking about, who am I surrounding myself with? Who am I mentoring? Who am I supporting? And who am I learning from? And really trying to get that from more as diverse communities as possible, and giving your energy to more diverse communities that are not represented in leadership in your organization or in those leadership roles around you. I think it's really crucial to broaden your perspective. And it's not about you going in and educating them. It's actually a lot of the time others educating you but making sure that you're doing a lot of that self-work yourself too. And that could be through learning a different language, or through reading things that aren't from the same culture as you, and doing some desktop research, or just really starting to build up some of your knowledge. I think that's a great way to start building empathy and understanding for difference and for the strength and bringing more diverse leaders to the life. And then also another way is, if you're a leader and you get asked to speak at things, or you get asked to be in certain rooms, think about, who can I bring here? Who can I bring into this room that hasn't been represented or isn't being represented? If I'm being asked to speak on a panel, look at the other panelists and go, am I actually the person to be here? Or does another voice need to come in to really create more representation? And I think being able to really tutuku and support others to rise up is a crucial part when you come from a place of privilege. Then on the Sharesies side, there's that is a lot about how people have been locked out of developing wealth, either from historical wrongs or structural systems and how the financial industry is set up. So thinking about, how do I talk really openly about money and investing? And this doesn't mean you have to talk about amounts. This is just talking about, hey, what I do, like, I'm using Sharesies and I'm investing these ways, and this is what I've learned, or I've got this KiwiSaver, or whatever it is, and just opening up these conversations. And it could just simply be around your dinner table, at your family reunions or get-togethers with your friends, and just starting to open up these conversations, because so many people feel really whakama. They feel quite embarrassed and shy about speaking about money, because this comes from this place of going, I'm not good at it, I don't have enough, I don't know what to do, I don't want to be seen as being bad with money, or I don't know how to be good with money, I don't even know what that means. But often, a lot of times, I dive into that, and people have great habits in place, and it would be cool if they shared them. And if they don't, it'd be like, I would like to do better. And it's great when you share when you open up and share in a space where you're comfortable and feel safe, then you can learn so much from each other. And so I think just in all those, in as many spaces as possible, just removing those barriers when it comes to talking about money, investing and developing wealth, and helping shape in others that ability to think long term and know they don't have to have much to get started, and it's about building a habit. I think will ultimately help create more wealth equity in the future.
Amazing advice, Brooke. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And just one last question before we wrap up. I always ask this at the end, and I want you to fast forward way later in life. It's your last day on earth. In fact, it's your last 5 minutes. And someone very young and very dear to you and your family, might be a grandchild, comes up and asks you one question, and you've got to give them some advice. So the question is this: what must I do to lead a life on purpose? What would your advice be to that?
Two things come to mind. One is one I heard when someone was getting their last cancer treatment, and they said, whatever you're putting off, do it now. And that really resonated with me, because whatever you're putting off, do it now, in a holistic sense, probably goes right to your purpose. Like, what is that thing that's niggling at your brain that you feel you want to be doing differently? You know, you've got this inner passion for, and you're just not giving yourself the permission or time to do. What is that thing? And just do it. Like, what's the harm in just giving that a shot and seeing what could come from that? And I think purpose it does seem to be ingrained in us in some ways, and it's either from the experiences we've had and the insights we've got from our experiences, or just something that's naturally driving us, whether it's more, social justice in the world, or just something that's like really sitting here. And it's like, what if you just did it? Whatever you're putting off, do it now. And I think that helps people lead from purpose when they really dig deep into those things that have been niggling on their mind, whether it be writing a book or whatever it might be. You just never know what opportunities start to be opened up and created from just giving something a shot.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really appreciate all that you and the company do. I'm going to make sure I put a link in the show notes. If anybody hasn't checked out Sharesies, click the link, go through and check it out. It's an incredible platform. I wish you nothing but the best for the year ahead, and I hope our paths cross here in Aotearoa.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed the content today, please smash that subscribe button below. And if you want to become part of my community, I've got an amazing free Facebook group. Please come and join us. The link is in the description below. And also, if you've got any questions about today's session, I'd love to know. Just comment below and I'll be sure to get back to you guys. Have the most amazing day.